y'all doing? Good, good. Everybody full? You happy? Well, let's give the staff a round of applause. They did that. We appreciate you. That's for you guys. And let's also have another round of applause for the great champion, the four horsewomen of the Hope Apocalypse, I guess. We had 4 incredible women up here who are champions and making this world a better place every day. I just made that up, you know. I'm brilliant. And also, you know, I do want to point out, you know, the mood here is lighter than it would have been a couple of weeks ago. Want to acknowledge that. Some of us put a lot of work into the election. Some of us were put in a lot of work before the election and felt discouraged even going in. But I will say, I think I detect a self-esteem problem among progressives. I think we suffer from low self-esteem. And by that I mean, when the people on the other side, when we hit them hard, they get mad. When they hit us hard, we get sad. Have you noticed this? We just can't wait to get sad. We just, you know, just fall into despair and depression. And I just think it's low self-esteem. I mean, in 2000, not to take away from the bad stuff, I'll talk about that in a second, but just to remember who you are. In 2004, when we had one-party authoritarian rule in this town, and an illegitimate, horrible war, an awful, disgusting president shaming the country, and we were all crying in our beer after John Kerry came up 100,000 votes short in Ohio. And you remember that? Everybody was all sad? Remember that? Crying. I'm going to move to Canada. As if they want you in Canada. Why do I, just American arrogance. I'm going to move to Canada. It's like, they don't want you in Canada. So, but do you remember this? And then, if somebody had come into this room in 2004, same time, and said, in 2010, we won't have the House, we will have the Senate, we will have an African-American president, and somewhere along the way, we will have elevated a woman to be Speaker of the House. You would have said, that sounds like utopia, right? Quit teasing me, you know? Maybe in 50 years. Right? So here we are in what would have been utopia. And everybody's sad. Now, I think that what this shows us is something I think important, something that the Petra fellows know as well as anybody. It turns out change is a lot harder than hope. Change is a lot harder than hope. Now, hope is important. We were 8 years in despair in this country as far as I'm concerned. And to move from despair to hope was a huge achievement. We went from despair to hope, then we tried to go from hope to change, and we find ourselves struggling, and struggling mightily. Now, you know that change is harder than hope. You know this from your personal life. Everybody in here has gone through this experience in your personal life. Suppose you're like me, about 10 to 15 pounds overweight. I see you staring. No, I understand. All right. And you say to yourself, I want to get in shape. But then you find yourself at this dinner eating the cake, and then looking at your neighbor's cake, noticing that the neighbor has not quite finished her cake, and then getting a little bit of the neighbor's cake. That's called despair. That's despair, right? Against your get in shape goals, that's despair. Now, at some point, I guarantee you, before the weekend is over, you'll see a fitness magazine somewhere, maybe in the drugstore, and you'll see somebody on the cover, and they'll have the washboard abs, you know, and they'll have the bicep and the tricep, and you'll think to yourself, I could look like that. That's called hope, okay? That's hope, okay? Important. But when you actually join the gym, actually get a trainer, actually go to the gym every Monday morning, Tuesday morning, do the sit-ups, that's called, and lose the 15 pounds, that's called change. That's change. And it's harder. It goes up and down. It's not linear. You have good days and bad days. And in politics, you have good years and you have bad years. But the challenge is to recognize that as long as you don't go all the way from despair to hope to change, all the way back to despair, change is still possible. And so the discipline in tough times is to be realistic, to be sober, to make honest assessments, but to not give up hope. And we have to be at least as wise and at least as intelligent and at least as decent as we insist that our third graders be, all right? All right? I have, this is, you know, write this down. I have a first grader who is a phenomenal athlete. I know you think your child is a phenomenal athlete. No, my child is a phenomenal athlete, amazing soccer player. So we never worry about Cabral when he wins. We worry about him when he loses, because that's when the parenting matters. It's when he's kicked 2 goals, and then the other kid kicks 2, and then he kicks and misses and wants to stomp off the court. Then the parenting matters. You say, oh, hold on a second, kid. Guess what? The other side scores sometimes too. Right? That actually happens in this game. And you don't get to then quit and walk off and be mad at everybody, and you actually have to figure out how to get back in the huddle and come back out. I point that out because it's the successes in life that give you your confidence. But it's the setbacks that give you your character. And this is a character-building moment for progressives. This is an opportunity for us not to stomp off the field, not to turn on each other, but to get back in the huddle and figure out the way forward. Now, I think that we actually have a tremendous opportunity to make change in this country, because frankly, I don't think for the past 2 years we put on our best game. And I think we've got, I think the talent in this room among these fellows shows you, I haven't seen these people on national television. I don't see, I think the best in America has not been heard from yet. I think we're just getting started with this movement for hope and change. We're just getting started. So, now having said that, I do want to tell a little bit about my personal story. Some of you may know me personally, but others of you may have seen me on television. So there is a cartoon character named Van Jones they have on Fox. I'd like to introduce myself to you as who I actually am. I was born in a militant Black Panther family. Okay, I'm just joking. That's not. No, I'm just joking. He already told you I'm from Tennessee. But what the heck, you may as well say something. So, no, actually, I was born in rural West Tennessee, on the edge of a small town called Jackson. My father was a cop in the military. He was born in abject poverty in a place called Orange Mound, Memphis, which had been the biggest black ghetto in the country before Harlem overtook it, I think, in the 30s. And he grew up completely poor, joined the military in the middle of a war so he could get out and put himself through college. Then he put his little brother through college. Then he put his cousin through college. Then he put me and my sisters through college. So he was kind of my example of what it means to actually make real change. And he told me growing up, and I have since come to adopt this view, he said, there's nothing that anybody can give you that will stop you from being poor. They can give you something to stop you from being broke. But if you haven't gone through the process in your own mind of realizing who you are and your own value and getting a chance to make your own decisions and that sort of stuff, then you'll be broke again in 6 weeks or 6 months. He said, every individual has to climb the ladder out of poverty themselves. He says, but society has a role too. Society has to make sure there's a ladder for people to climb. And one of the things that is happening in our country right now is we're expecting our young people to climb a 6-story ladder out of poverty, which has now become an 8-story ladder out of poverty. But the ladder only has about 3 rungs on it. And that is just simply impossible to expect anyone to do. So we have to figure out as a country how to put some rungs back on that ladder of opportunity. And then we can hold these kids accountable for climbing it or not climbing it. But before we hold these children accountable, we need to hold a whole bunch of grown people accountable for not giving them the ladder to climb. And so that's where that's where I come from. And I will just say, since somebody mentioned something about that strange law school in New Haven, Connecticut, it was actually there that I took a very strong detour to the far left of Pluto because of not because of the discrimination and awful stuff that I saw growing up in the rural South. That was nothing compared to what I saw when I moved to the North and was a student at Yale Law School. Now, having grown up with Willie Jones as my father, I had gotten in absolutely exactly 0 trouble my whole life because my father told me, and I'll never forget this, we would sit down about to eat. We used to eat with the television on. We were about to eat, and we were sitting down, and he said, Anthony, my actual name is Anthony. Anthony, if I ever find out that you've been doing drugs, I'm going to kill you. Now, get the ketchup and give your mother the channel changer. And I'm thinking about, he probably would kill me. I was like, so I was the straightest arrow kid you've ever seen. Perfect grades, never got in any trouble, never did anything wrong. To this day, I've never had a sip of alcohol. I've never taken any drugs at all. I'm serious. My father is dead and gone, but he ain't gonna get me. I'm cool with that. So, but it gave me a particular perspective when I got to Yale. Because once I got there, I had this horrible experience. And I was afraid to tell my father, but I called my grandmother, who we call Big Mama. Don't laugh. I know you got a big mama.